Knitography. I'm Patricia, and today I'm coming to you from the beginning of the Nydeleven River. The Nydeleven River, which winds itself all the way into the city of Trondheim, begins right here at Selbuvotter. Selbuvotter is a huge lake which connects my area all the way across to the village of Selbu, and it's easily reached by boat in the summertime. Selbu is the village where the Selbuvotter began. Today I want to share with you room 2 of the Selbuvotter Museum in Selbu. It's very interesting how they've arranged this room in the museum. Once you leave the story of wool, you go into this room, room number 2, where it all began with Marit, Ermstad, and community. When you're in room 2, that's exactly what you leave with, the feeling of a knitting community. Marit, of course, as I've told before, was working on a little farm and knitting her mittens, and she took them to church and it became all the rage. But what really struck me about room 2 of the museum is this is where the beginning of knitting groups began, where women came together over a cup of coffee and they all sat knitting together, actually to survive. And I'd like to read to you in English the plaque that is there. From the middle of the 19th century, women in Selbu were knitting almost in every spare minute of time. They knitted on their way along the road to the shop, while they were tending the animals, on the bus, everywhere that was possible to produce a few stitches. And they also gathered round a cup of coffee. In hard times, this knitting was a lifesaver for many families. Men, women, and children had to do knitting in order to survive. So when you're in room 2, there's lots of photographs of people gathered round a wood stove, just knitting, having a chat, and possibly having lots of joy doing it. But underlying it all was a need to do this knitting. The most important story that I want to tell you today is about Beret Aune. The knitting of Selbuvotter to build a bridge was most inspiring to me. I just had a mission to find the bridge. I wanted to see it, I wanted to stand there, and I wanted to really understand this woman saw a need in her community and she took action to right it. It actually did not begin with building the bridge in Selbu. It actually began with great poverty and the need to immigrate into America. There was a lot of border conflict among the Scandinavian nations in the 1800s. And during this time, people immigrated to America to earn money to escape great poverty. And that's exactly what Beret Aune, her husband, and her young boy did. They immigrated into a little village in Minnesota. When they arrived in Minnesota, you can probably imagine that Beret spoke no English at all. Now I can relate to Beret so keenly, arriving in Norway with a 6-week-old baby, and I didn't know a Norwegian word. So just from her immigrating into my country and my immigrating into her country, I already felt a very deep connection to Beret. Now, when Beret entered this or moved into this small village in Minnesota, They didn't have a schoolhouse. They didn't have a teacher. They didn't have a church. And Beret decided that she had a skill that she could use to write that. Beret was a very capable knitter, and so she began to teach other women how to knit. Of course, she would have taught them how to knit the Selbuvotter. The women came together in knitting groups to knit these mittens, and they began to sell their mittens in a nearby city. And soon they had the money to pay for a teacher to teach the children, as well as build a school building for them. Later on, Beret talked to the men of the village, and she had earned enough money that she could convince them to build a church. So Beret organized even further a group called the Women's Missionary Federation. And together they knitted Selbuvotters to build the church. Now, in 1893, Beret returned home. She returned to Selbu. She returned to the little area in Selbu called Vikvaret. And there, Beret would have to get in her boat, row across Selbusjön, and she would have to do this to cross the river there into the little village to go to church or to go to the shops. And so Beret thought to herself, if I could build a school, if I could build a church, if I could hire a teacher for my child, I can certainly raise the money to build a bridge here in Norway. And that's exactly what she did. She built the Teigen Bridge, the bridge that I will be taking you to in this vlog. At the spot where the bridge was built, there is a plaque to Beret. Now, the bridge itself from those days is not there. It was built of rock, and so of course a modern bridge has taken its place. But you can still see on either side the remnants of the bridge, and of course the plaque or the monument to her honor. Now, on page 252, for those that have now gotten your own Selbuvotter book and you're following the vlog and history, you will see the photograph of these mittens that Beret knit when she was 100 years old. They are on display in the museum. The pattern of the mittens are also recreated in the book so that you might knit them yourself. Now, when I tell you the story of Beret Aune, I want you to know that she lived to be 102 years old. And her family shared the story with the author of this book that she knit every day of her life these mittens, this Selbuvotter mitten and this Selbuvotter pattern that she has modified to be her own. The Skinn Rosa, and that really means shining rose. I translated it as shining star because of course the Selbu mitten is a star pattern, but actually hers is a rose, a Skinn rose, which is shining rose. One of the most beautiful things that I found out in my research is that the church that Beret built in Minnesota, this Lutheran church that she helped to raise money to build, had their, I think it was their 50th anniversary. And so they sent Beret a little diploma, a little certificate connected to the 50-year celebration. And her grandchildren or great-grandchildren shared this story that she had this framed above her bed until the day she died. And I just think that's such a beautiful and touching story, that she was actually recognized not only for building the bridge that she built here in Norway in Selbu, but also for her contribution in building the church in this area of Minnesota. Berit lived to be 102 years old, and she knit on her Selbuvotter until the day she died. She knit on them the morning of her death. In the last 10 years of her life, Berit was confined to her bed, but she knit every single day on her Selbuvotter mittens. And it is my understanding that her last mittens are not finished, but are in the possession of her family even today. So the story of Beret Aune is deeply personal to me, because Berit, as I said, was a woman that immigrated to a foreign land. She would not have understood the language, and she had to make it. She had to come into the community, and she did it, and she was successful. So Berit's story is one that I think is beautiful in room 2 of the museum. She's really the central piece of this part of the museum. Now, when you visit this room, you will see the oldest mittens in the collection. They're all within the Selbuvotter book, photographed for the book, but they're all on display here in the museum. What's really interesting, though, is up on the wall, you see a set of mittens knit out of Norwegian wool with no pattern. I actually failed to ask Solveig their significance, but I left with this feeling of, what if there wasn't a Selbuvotter pattern? What if Marit Ermstad had never gone to church and worn her mittens or knit this star? You really see on the wall how plain the mittens are. I'm sure that's very romanticizing the whole idea, but it just really struck me that, wow, what would mittens in Norway look like without this rich history that Berit spread to America, that Marit spread through Selbu and out into the world? It's really sobering thought to think about. So, in footage today, you're going to see the river of Nydeleven in Trondheim to another most famous bridge, the Gammel Bybro. The Gammel Bybro is it's a historical landmark in our city. It was built in connection to the Christening, which is the fort during the occupation. It's part of that planning and construction, and actually it was the entrance to the city at one time. Now, along the Nydeleven, you're going to see the colorful buildings of the Brygge. And these are designed as row boat houses, as what we would call row houses, or Brygge means warehouse. So as the ships would be coming up to these warehouses, and on many of them you can see the cranes that lift up big shipments of cargo and whatnot. And there would have been shops and things like that. Now the Brygge are restaurants and just beautiful places for you to visit in these. But in those days they were actual warehouses or places of export and selling. But they're beautiful colors, beautiful rainbow colors down Nydeleven. Now, Gammel Bybro is actually called Port of Happiness. So it's the gate of happiness. And it is my understanding that lots of proposals happen on this bridge, as well as wedding photographs. But because it's named the Bridge of Happiness, you know, when you're standing there and you see all of these colors and the beautiful Nydeleven River, I thought this would be very interesting to share with you because of this idea of hygge and happiness. And again, this past week, Norway took the honor of becoming the happiest country in the world, away from Denmark. And as I shared on Instagram, it goes back and forth between Denmark and Norway. But that is Lykkens portal, the gateway to happiness. It's an absolutely stunning bridge. It's made of wood, as all of the buildings, the brygge, are made of. They're wooden buildings, and as I said, all different colors. So if you can imagine, right here, this is where that river connects. And for me, of course, that has special significance because that is the city in which I commute every day and work as a teacher. So that's my city. This is my nature, and that is my city. So I hope you're going to enjoy the footage of room 2 of the Selbuvotter Knitting Museum today. I hope you'll enjoy seeing the footage of the bridge that Beret Aune built in Selbu. And I do hope you'll enjoy visiting the Gammel Bybro, the old city bridge in Trondheim. Hello friends, it's a new day and I am back again to share with you a little bit about my knitting. I want to announce the winner of the mitten kit. I want to tell you a little bit about what I'm going to be knitting on in the coming days. And I also want to share a little bit about my personal project here with Knitography and my project page. So, first of all, I'm sitting on the dam of the Nydeleven River. Yesterday, I was sitting just beside the river, but I realized that the sound quality of the video was a bit altered because of the wind. It is a very windy, misty, rainy day again today. But hopefully being in this little bit of shelter will help the quality. I do apologize for all of the heavy editing and sound issues that we will have this week in this vlog. Yesterday, I was trying to tell my own personal connection to Beret Aune within her story, and I realized that that would be a little bit disjointed and possibly not as effective as I hoped it would be. So today I am back at the river, and I'm going to tell you a little bit why this story inspires me so much, and also try to connect it to myself, hopefully in a more linear and understandable way. So when I found out about Beret Aune and just her knitting these Selbuvotter and building this bridge, and then I found out more about her story in America and just everything that she represents to the knitting community, I just felt so connected to her. It's can feel a little bit odd that I say that I have a spiritual connection to her, but it is that sort of feeling. You know, I am an immigrant into Norway, and she was an immigrant into my country. She was a knitter. She had a small child, as I did. She must have felt alone, and she must have felt so many feelings that I felt coming here more than 20 years ago. She would have been without her family as I was, and you know, to take action as she did to make a difference and probably learn the language, and you know, coming into a new country like America was, and all of the hardships. Of course, I didn't have all of those old day hardships, but I thought I did. I used to have my mom send me packages of things that I thought I could not live without living in Norway, and I just laugh at that girl now, because there's not a thing in Norway that I can't find to replace those things that I thought were so needed from America. I can just relate so keenly to Beret Aune and her story, and I just was so enthusiastic to tell you it, and I hope I've done it justice in some way to her legacy, because she really made a difference. She made a difference to people's lives, and she just inspires me. And really, I can go right into my project of Knitography, because I also have that same desire to just share stories, to encourage people with their two-stranded knitting. And I mean, if I can learn as a non-knitter coming to this country, not a clue about how to knit or the wool industry or anything. I did live in New Zealand, and I was raised on a ranch, so the whole sheep and animal and shearing and all of that I had. But coming to Norway as a really non-knitter and learning everything that I've learned, and you know, making wool and inspiring other people, well, that's just my whole desire. And just as Beret Aune did, that is what I'm trying to do in this modern time. Which brings me to my project page and the giveaway. First of all, I have made this project page because, of course, I've been sponsored for this giveaway, and also it is a way for you to join in the giveaways, and for me to possibly to share and write my thoughts in a broader way. It is limiting on Instagram. Instagram is my favorite medium because I'm a visual person. Photography and styling is really a part of my craft. So Instagram is really my first and my most creative interest. But having the project page gives me the opportunity again to have giveaways, to sponsor people that like Husfliden, that really are providing this wool to knit the Selbuvotter, and this gives me another forum to lift them up and to allow you to participate. The other reason that I have created my project page is really in answer to all of the many, many messages I have received through Ravelry and Instagram from people that are viewing the vlog and wish to reach out to me in a concrete and meaningful way. I want to thank you all for these messages. I am very humbled by it. I really don't know how to articulate my thanks and my gratitude, and I want to say that it has meant the world to me. Sharing these stories, reaching out to people that are trying to learn to knit the Selbuvotter, that all just brings me great joy. But of course, I do appreciate very much the encouraging words and the offers of gifts. But really, sending gifts is not really something that I would like for you to do. It is very expensive to purchase yarn, and it is very expensive to send it to Norway with postage. And so I hope that those of you that I have written back to say, please don't do that, will understand my reason for saying no. I love to receive packages in the post. I love to receive yarn, and I love to receive patterns and gifts through Ravelry. But at the end of the day, I have a lot of yarn, I have a lot of patterns, and I really, yes, it concerns me when people spend money on postage. I don't even allow my mom to do it anymore. I just feel that is too extravagant, and I just have had to say no. So please forgive me when I have said no to those kinds of offers, and it means the world to me. But what I have done in response is I have put a donate button on my project page, and if you are so moved and inclined to support my project Knitography, please go there and leave a very small donation. It will be very welcomed and used toward my project, and it will be more earth friendly, and it will yes, I will use it to good benefit in producing my wool and keeping the technology going here. And yes, it will just advance my project. So it is not necessary that you do it, but I do want people to feel like if they want to reach out to me in such a way, that they have a way to do it in a meaningful and an eco-friendly way. So that's that. Thank you very much indeed for understanding. It feels very odd to have to share that sort of thing because I'm a very shy person. I'm a sort of an introverted person, and I only wish to explain that in the most humble way possible. I hope you understood. I also want to say that 76 people entered the giveaway, and the messages there were also overwhelming to me. Thank you so much for your words of kindness toward this work that I'm doing to share these stories with you. I know that it's not perfect. I know that I am not smooth in my sharing, but my heart is so full and it's so open, and I'm doing it with the most genuine feeling possible. So thank you for those comments. I have read every one of them, and they mean the world to me. I only wish that I could give away a mitten kit to every single person. The good news is there will be more mitten kits because, as I said, I was sponsored by Husfliden, and in having the project page, they have also the very kind lady that I met and interviewed. He has also been able to read them, and she sees the enthusiasm for knitting these Selbuvotter mittens, so she is also inspired to give away additional mitten kits, so those will be coming very soon. So I'm excited about that. I just want to say that I will share this, but I did the random number generator, and it was comment number 22, and I think her name is Diane. I have it on my phone, which I cannot see because I'm recording with it. Her name is Diane, and she is from Minnesota. What fate! The place where Beret Aune immigrated to in America. Her username is JustBunny1, and of course I'll be contacting her and sending this along to her. That is the winner of the mitten kit. I do not know Diane at all. I'm looking forward to visiting her, hopefully on Instagram, or hopefully following her as she knits her mittens. I wish I could read her message to you, but I think I will post it on Instagram. Again, these messages meant the world to me. I hope that you will still be inspired to knit these mittens, and that you'll join future giveaways and not give up your interest in knitting the Selbuvotter. The last thing I want to say is I have also been overwhelmed with messages of people that have purchased the Selbuvotter book themselves, and they have it now, and we can talk about page numbers, and they have been able to see the history firsthand that I have shared in pictures, and go back and listen to the vlogs. And I just wanted to say that I was so fortunate to meet Isolde Teague at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and she contacted me and was excited about the project. She is carrying the book in her website that you can go to, and she will have more books for European viewers on Wednesday. So she has an update on Wednesday, so go there if you're interested in purchasing the book in Europe. Of course, in America, you're going to purchase the book, or Canada, you're going to purchase the book through Schoolhouse Press. Those are the resources I have for you now. So there's not a lot of time for sharing my knitting, but I did want to tell you that I am knitting on my rusty cardigan. I know that is just getting like old news, but I am knitting on my rusty cardigan. I have come quite a way on it, and I'm just enjoying the process. Just like last week, I've made a lot more progress on it. I'm soon going to be casting on the sleeves, but I am knitting on my rusty cardigan really monogamously. I did take along my socks to meetings and to knit along on my commute. Not a lot of progress, I have to say. But that's usually how it is with me and socks, unless I just get into a sock mode. I'm also casting on Beret Aune's mittens, possibly. I've got that or the spider mittens. I haven't decided. I got my wool, and as you know, I finished my last pair of Selbuvotter mittens, and I'm about to cast on a new pair. So I'm going to really share that process with you. I haven't done that so much in the past, but I'm going to. I am going to be knitting the Skugafjall sweater. My wool is arriving for that. That is a Christmas gift that I received from my family. That wool, was my the whole of my Christmas gift this past year, and I saved it to order for a very special a sweater pattern, and this pattern is very special to me. And also, I am going to be knitting the Wool Week hat coming up, and this is going to be knit in this most special yarn from my friend Anne, and she lives in Michigan. we did a swap together, and that is how I got this wool. I want to say this is the Bausta beanie, so I'm going to be knitting that coming up. I also walked to the library this week and picked up, I don't know, I saw this book, someone was sharing it on Instagram. I ran right to my library to get myself on the waiting list, and then this week I got the message that it was ready for me to pick up, and I went right away because this book does have a waiting list, and I am interested in knitting a few of the sweaters in here, and also, most importantly, I want to knit this dress, or this, it's more like a tunic. So this is also going to be a project that I think I have decided to knit. I just absolutely love this dress. So I do have some knitting plans, but my rusty cardigan is really my priority to finish right now, and so that is my main sweater project right now, and then I will shift to the Skogafjell pullover at Easter time. I'm planning to cast that on. We have 2 more weeks until we leave for the sea for the Easter break, and I'm looking really forward to that, and I will knit my hat and that sweater during Easter, even if I'm not finished with my rusty cardigan. So that is a little bit about my knitting, my personal connection to Beret Aune, the reason that I have started my project page, and what I actually failed to mention really is that you can find the link to my project page through my Instagram feed. So if you go to my user name profile page or profile on Instagram, you can click to visit my project page. So now you're going to move on to all of the footage of the story of Beret Aune, the room 2 of the Selbuvotter museum, and also visiting the Nydeleven river in Trondheim. So just finally, as I said, the Nydeleven river begins here and it winds itself all the way into the city and empties into the Trondheim fjord. Now, one last question that I remember that I had. As you probably can see behind me, the river on this side is emptied. And the reason for that, or why the lake is low and the river is emptied on this side, is because here in Norway, they sell the water in this area to make electricity. They sell it to Sweden and possibly to Denmark, but mostly to Sweden. They sell this water for the production of electricity. And the river that flows into Trondheim, and also Selbuvotter, which is quite low right now, fills itself automatically each year again with the melting from the mountain. Now at the very end of this video, I will video how that happens, because there is an extreme amount of melting happening right now, and you are going to see the melting, the waterfall melting, and it is running directly under the road into the Selbuvotter, right at the point where Nydeleven begins to flow. So that was a question that I received through Ravelry about the lake last week, why it looked so very low. And that again is just because they sell the water each year to create electricity in a sustainable, reusable way. So anyway, I'm off to walk back now up the mountain home, and I will collect the video of that melting so that you can see how the lake will be filled again by the time we have spring and summer. Hello friends, here I am at the bridge that Knitting built. It is a freezing cold, biting wind day. It's sunny, but it is really cold. But I am so excited to be here. I am going to now film the old bridge. A modern bridge has replaced it now, but I'm going to show you the old remnants of the bridge and the plaque that proves that it is the bridge that Knitting built.